hope you all are fine. Today we are going to learn a new chapter, an inspirational and a motivational poem named Walk Alone. Before exploring the poem, we can learn a little about the great poet who wrote it, Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore was India's one of the greatest literary figure. He is a poet, a novelist, a composer, and a short story writer. So now let's explore deeply into his life.
He was the first non European Nobel laureate in literature. He reshaped Bengali literature, music, and Indian education in the late 19th and early 20th century. His works express universal humanism, nature, spirituality, and the quest for freedom. The key pillars of the Bengal Renaissance, a cultural and intellectual awakening in 19th century Bengal. His father, Rabindranath Tagore, was a respected religious thinker and reformer, and one of the founders of Brahma Samaj, a movement that promoted monotheism, social reform, and education. His mother, Sharada Devi, managed a large and vibrant household. Growing up in this environment, Tagore was surrounded by music, art, literature, and lively intellectual discussions. The Tagore family regularly hosted poets, musicians, philosophers, and social reformers. So, this cultural atmosphere deeply shaped his creative mind, and he played a crucial role in developing him into a poet, philosopher, composer, educator, and later the first Asian Nobel laureate. Now, about his education. Rabindranath Tagore never enjoyed formal schooling. He felt that traditional education limited a child's creativity and imagination. As a child, he briefly attended Oriental Seminary and later St. Xavier's School in Kolkata. But he left both early because the rigid school environment did not suit him. And in 1878, Tagore was sent to England to study law as his family hoped he would take up a professional career. But, however, he had little interest in law and he returned to India without completing his degree. And most of his learning comes from outside the classroom, which means that he was taught at home by private tutors, explored subjects through self study, and also he was deeply influenced by literature, music, nature, and artistic atmosphere of his family home. So, this education outside the classroom, outside the school, played a major role in shaping his genius as he later became a poet, philosopher, composer, and educator. So, now we are going to learn about Rabindranath Tagore's literary career. So, looking into it, Tagore wasn't just a writer, he was one of the most productive and creative literary figure in the world. He wrote thousands of pieces, poems, songs, stories, essays, everything you can imagine. Poetry. When we look into his poetry, poetry was his greatest strength and form through which he reached global recognition. His poetry is famous because it mixes many beautiful ideas together, like spirituality, nature, love, and human values. He had a very special way of expressing feelings and thoughts through simple musical language. Geetanjali, his most famous work. You may have heard this name before, Geetanjali, which means song offerings. This book made Tagore world famous. Why so? Because the English version of Geetanjali won him the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913 and he became the first Asian to ever receive a Nobel Prize. This was a huge moment in Indian history. The poems in Geetanjali are full of devotion, peace, and the search for truth. His other important poetry collections are Manasi. It showed his growth as a poet. Sonartori, a beautiful collection about longing and inner freedom. Balaka, a lively book celebrating movement and energy. Kalpana, it's filled with imagination and lyrical beauty.
So remember, Tagore's poetry is not just writing. It is music, philosophy, and emotion all together. That's what makes him one of the greatest poets in Indian literature. So now let's continue exploring Rabindranath Tagore's literary genius. Tagore didn't just write poems, he contributed to almost every form of literature. Novels. Tagore wrote several powerful novels, each dealing with deep social and emotional themes. Some of his famous novels are Ghora, a story about identity, nationalism, and social reform. Ghar Bairi, it explores patriotism, love, and conflict during the Swadeshi movement. Char Adhyay. It's a novel about revolutionary politics and human relationships. These novels show how Tagore understands society and human nature very deeply. So now listen carefully. Tagore is considered the father of the modern Indian short story. He brought simplicity, emotion, and realism into short stories. Some of his famous stories include Kabuliwala. It's a touching tale of a father's love. Postmaster, a gentle story about loneliness and innocence. The Hungry Stones. It's a mysterious and a haunting tale. The stories are simple yet powerful, and even today they are read worldwide. Tagore also wrote many dramatic works, some symbolic, some musical, and some social. His important plays are Dak Ghar, which means the post office, a play about hope, freedom, and the human spirit. Rekta Karabi, a symbolic play against oppression and exploitation. Chitragada, based on a story from Mahabharata, full of music and dance. His plays were not just entertainment; they carried deep messages about his songs and music. Finally, students, one of the Tagore's most beautiful contribution is Rabindra Sangeet. He composed over 2000 songs, and these songs express love, devotion, nature, seasons, patriotism, and human emotions. He blended Indian classical music, Bengali folk tunes, and even some Western melodies. That is why Tagore is not only a writer but also one of India's greatest musicians. So now let's talk about some of the most important contributions of Rabindranath Tagore beyond his writing. When we look into education, Tagore was not happy with the traditional school system, so he decided to create a better one. In 1901, he started a small school at Shantiniketan. Later, in 1921, it became the famous Vishwabharati University. So, what was special about it? Classes were held in the open air close to nature. There were no classroom system. Closed classroom system was not there. Classes were held in open air. Learning was holistic. It created an all-round development of the students, not just books, but music, art, craft, and thinking. He believed all cultures of the world are connected, so he promoted international harmony. Tagore wanted the education that helps students become creative, free, and deeply human. When we look into social reform, he was not only a poet, he was also a social reformer. He supported women's education, rural development, social equality, and he strongly opposed caste discrimination, superstitions, and any kind of injustice. Nationalism and the freedom movement. Tagore played an important role in India's freedom struggle, but he had his own philosophy. He supported India's freedom but believed in non-violence, humanism, and global unity. And here is something every student should remember. Two of his songs become national anthems. India's national anthem, Janagana Mana, and Bangladesh national anthem, Amar Sonar Bangla. This shows the global impact of his ideas and music. So, students, to conclude our lesson on Rabindranath Tagore, let's talk about why he is remembered even today. Tagore as Gurudev. Tagore is lovingly called Gurudev. Why? Because he was not just a writer,
He was a guide, a teacher, a spiritual leader for India. His thoughts, his values, and his art inspired generations. His influence on Indian education, music, and arts are wide. Even today, Tagore's works are taught in schools and universities, sung as Rabindra Sangeet, performed as dramas and dance dramas, and studied by artists, musicians, thinkers all over the world. His ideas shaped modern Indian culture in a big way. Tagore believed in the unity of all humanity. Beyond religion, caste, and nationality, he stood for peace, compassion, creativity, and harmony among all cultures. This is why he is seen as global cultural icon, not just an Indian poet. So, Tagore's legacy is not just in his books. It lives in his ideas, his music, his education philosophy, and his vision of a peaceful world. Now, let's assess what we have learned today. First question is Rabindranath Tagore was born in. Very good. He was born in Kolkata. Second question is Tagore composed the national anthem of. Very good. He composed the national anthem of both India and Bangladesh. Third question is which of the following is written by Tagore? Very good. Geetanjali. His most famous poetry collection is Geetanjali. Rabindranath Tagore was not just a poet, he was a visionary who touched the world with his thoughts, words, and actions. His poems inspire courage, humanity, and self realization. And our poem, Walk Alone, is one of the best examples of his message of inner strength. So, let's learn in detail about the poem in the next class.